The New York Knicks are on fire. They've been humming on both sides of the ball, and the addition of Josh Hart seems to be a kind of final piece in getting a real Tom Thibodeau team out there. It's been an incredible run since the trade deadline, where they've only lost one game, and that was a nail-biter against a Hornets team that is definitely improving. In this period, they're first in net rating, second in offensive rating, and 12th in defensive rating, and honestly, they're playing some of the best basketball that's been seen in New York for many years. Offensively, the Knicks are thriving through all of their individual scorers, and this is testament to the job Tom Thibodeau has done installing a well-designed offensive structure. Julius Randle's play in particular has been staggering. He's shooting 44% from 3 on 10 attempts per game. If you look here at all the other players ranking around him, they're mostly guards and wings. Randle really gets licensed to pull it from anywhere. On this play, they just isolate a side for him, and normally he'll just go to work and try and go into a post-up, but here, he's just going to try the long ball and he's going to drill it, as he's done with 45% of these shots. You can tell that teams are not sure whether to leave him open or not. They honestly do, because he wreaks so much havoc as a driver that they'd rather he takes these looks. Here they're going to run a wedge action to try and get into the block, but watch Porzingis just drop really deep to try and get ahead of him, so he's just going to pop for 3 and shoot over a smaller defender. I want to be clear, when I talk about letting someone take a shot, I don't mean this as like a Ben Simmons type disrespect. It's actually the opposite. Randle's such a powerful driver that teams don't want to overcommit to him. They run a lot of these middle isolations, for example, to really get him going as a driver. The shot falling helps, but I don't think it's essential to his game working, as shown by the fact that he's been an all-star this year. His body control when he does choose to drive is excellent, and he's not really a guy you can let get going. I think an under-the-radar development in Randle's game this year has been his improvement as a passer. This has been evident in this recent run. He's had some decent assist numbers over the years, but to me it always felt like he needed to be double-teamed to get them. He would just if he was doubled in the post, he'd pass it one man away and they'd score. They were more like schemed reads. But he's improving at setting spot-up shooters and making more advanced reads. From the low block, he is a really aggressive passer, especially on the left side, because then he can use his right hand to sling it across the court. So here the Knicks are going to go switch hunting, which is seemingly just a normal thing you do with your power forward. He's going to get the Dinwiddie matchup, and he knows the Nets aren't going to like this. So they're loitering around with nail help, and he waits for his initial screener to go all the way to the other side for an open three-pointer. Also note Mitchell Robinson flashes to the low block, and RJ Barrett also cuts inside and sets a little sort of hammer screen. The Knicks cut really well off his post-ups, and it's really helped his development as a passer. I think he's just been more creative as a passer this season, and the increasing chemistry across the roster has helped. So here Randle's going to attack early, but watch him manipulate this perimeter defender who's trying to split the difference and free safety. After his spin move out the paint, he looks to pass right even though there's no one there, and this gets the defender to bite, so he's going to go back to his left and hit RJ Barrett for 3. These are the types of plays he's been doing a lot more often this year, and I think it's testament to his own development. I also think Tom Thibodeau is more creative offensively than he gets credit for. He doesn't always adjust his offense as quickly as one might like, but the base stuff he installs is creative and modern. He's great at building a functional system around his best players, going all the way back to Chicago when he had Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose. The main way you see this in New York is that they push for empty side actions through Jalen Brunson. So here they're going to put Brunson and Randle in the same action, and empty side actions are so effective for Jalen because his first step as a slasher is just ridiculous. And the problem is you can't stand off him because he shoots 38% on pull-up threes. So if you're doing it on an empty side, help from the other side is it's almost inevitable, and that's why they get a lot of open corner threes. This empty side stuff is quite a new thing in the NBA, and it's certainly not something we saw from Thibodeau in Minnesota, so I think he does adapt to modern methods, despite the reputation being otherwise. Here they're going to run an empty side double drag out of pistol action, which is just a nice way to create some confusion. Brunson is just scary attacking the rim, and his inside efficiency numbers for someone so small, they are historical outliers, which was a big part of his draft case. Part of this comes to the fact he's really good at using his left foot as a pivot for turnaround jumpers. He's been elite in that short mid-range area every year of his career. His agility and bounce off that planted foot, like in this play, are the main reason why. This time Brunson's going to use his left foot to plant himself, but instead of taking the fade away, he's going to use it to sort of burst off of with that low shin angle, and again, he's flashing that short mid-range game. The Knicks defense is, in my opinion, looking the best it has since Tom Thibodeau has become the head coach. With the stats I posted earlier, you might think that the offense is carrying them, but my personal prediction is that the offensive rating is just going to go down a little bit. But in terms of the tape, I think this is a top 5 defensive team in the league for the rest of the season, mainly because of their communication and attention to detail. Thibs has always been one of the best defensive tacticians in the NBA, and though his scheme has evolved a little bit over the years, it's always been one rule: no middle. This literally means exactly what you would expect. They don't want teams driving vertically into the paint, and they either want to ice them towards the baseline or just build a wall in the paint with nail help. As opposed to running you off the 3-point line, they almost try and calmly escort you off of it. Here's a visual of what no middle looks like. The Nets go into a pick and roll. Look at Hartenstein's body angle. He's funneling this drive to be one at an angle rather than a straight line drive. And they're going to force a leaner, which is one of the most important shots you're trying to force if you're icing. This no middle system is usually characterized by nail help and defenders sagging off their own man to play the ball. This play illustrates this really well. So this isn't a middle pick and roll, but Brandon Ingram's going to get to the block, which is an area he's very good at, and he goes into a post up. Look at Jalen Brunson playing off his own man because he doesn't want Ingram to turn and get into the paint. But also look at Josh Hart, who has literally got to go and cover someone, but his main focus is stopping that drive, so he almost clogs the paint and then recovers to his man. And the Pelicans are just going to end up zipping it around the perimeter and forcing a contested shot, which is not ideal, but that is what this defensive scheme can do. Even when teams go to empty side actions, they still really prioritise no middle, so the Heat are going to try and go into an empty side action with Tyler Hero and Cody Zeller. Watch the Knicks hedge Hero, like they don't want him turning the corner and going downhill, so Cody Zeller gets the pop, he's wide open, but in this system, it's the responsibility of that low man to come all the way across. In this case, it's Obi Toppin, and he plays it perfectly and they get the stop. This is the other side of this system: protect the paint and then rotate to shooters. The priority is keeping the paint and maintaining it. Here's a great example. Hartenstein is once again keeping the driver at a specific angle, and the Nets go to a pick and pop to Cam Johnson, and you're going to see RJ Barrett is going to rotate a long way to close out on him. These are the kinds of shots that the Knicks do live with, for the most part, as they trust their rotations. It's not a perfect system. In this game, Cam Johnson hit 7 threes, but there isn't a single perfect defensive system in basketball. They all have a pressure point, and Tom Thibodeau lives with those pick and pops, those stretch bigs, and he trusts his guys to go and rotate to them. I think Mitchell Robinson's athleticism has done 2 things. One, it allows Tibbs to be a bit more comfortable being a bit more creative, but it alleviates some of the ice system's weak points. So a common counter to ice coverage is to set a much higher screen. The logic here is that it's harder to angle someone when they're so far away from you. So Robinson is in this angled stance, but Jason Tatum is going to snake the pick and roll and go the other way. But look how quickly Robinson changes direction for someone so big. Also note that Brunson gets a hand in there from the nail, and Emmanuel Quickley is eventually going to hard tag from the corner. This defense makes you work for everything inside the paint. Something that's really stood out to me is how good the Knicks' communication has been lately. So on this play, the Celtics are going to try and run stampede action, which is a good counter to aggressive nail help, where a player catches and dribbles the ball in the same motion. So Emmanuel Quickley is going to get initially beaten by this, but watch him signal to Julius Randle to get into the paint, and then Quickley is going to go out and take the man that Randle was initially guarding himself. This was done almost instantly, and it shows the high feel of Quickley, but the general organisation of this Knicks defence, like this is such a Tom Thibodeau roster. This feels like a good pivot into Emmanuel Quickley, who's flashed a few times in some of the clips I've shown. He deserves more national attention than he's getting. His defense is incredible, it's tenacious, and here's a great example of it. He's going to go up against Kyle Kuzma, who has eaten on these baseline ISOs all year. Quickly gets right up into him, and when Kuzma spins away, he gets back into recovery instantly and forces the turnover. He's the type of low man defender that Tom Thibodeau loves. Normally teams will try and attack ice coverage by forcing a small guard to be one of the sort of help defenders, but this isn't a problem for Quickley. So here, Julius Randle's going to make a mistake. He's going to try and angle this pick and roll, but he's angling it to no one. Look how quickly Emmanuel is going to come across, and he's going to display great verticality to get his contest. He is one of the best help defenders in the league, make no mistake about it. He also really buys into the stunting, which is really important for this no-middle defense. So here he's going to deter the drive, and then he's going to recover out to defend his man. That is honestly an archetype play of this scheme. You have to do that. And you can just tell quickly he enjoys playing defense. His offensive game is useful. He is honestly a flamethrower, shooting 36% on pull-up threes at high volume. He will pull up from anywhere. In the Celtics game, they were really lazy with some of their switches when they were trying to run like horns out and stack and stuff like that. And he just pulled up multiple times as they were organising themselves. I think his shot profile is also important because the majority of the Knicks lead guys like to go inside as opposed to going outside. I think he's also developing as a driver. I don't think he's ever going to be a high volume rim guy, but like look at this really nice east-west step against Jaylen Brown. I think there's definitely some stuff there, but it all comes off his closeouts, and he has one of the best floaters in the NBA already. My good friend Alex Hoops is going to go a lot deeper into quickly, but my final thoughts on him: he has a much higher ceiling than I thought he would during his rookie year. He's a perfect secondary guy next to these guys, and Tom Thibodeau loves him. And I think a special shout out needs to go to the Knicks front office for actually building a team that Tom Thibodeau likes, which is something that hasn't really happened in a couple of his other stops. On the whole, I'm pretty in on this New York Knicks team. The top two guys, Randle and Brunson, are legitimately hard to stop offensive talent, but this is a defensive team. Their identity makes them a horrible matchup, and Tibbs has really built a team in his image. They're humming on both sides of the ball, and the likes of Grimes, Miles McBride, all these guys are only going to keep getting better. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you for the next video.